How do you include learners with exceptionalities in your classroom?
Well, for the longest time, I would have answered that question with it depends on the exceptionality. But over the past 2 years, I have had the opportunity to reflect upon my experience within the Bachelor of Education program, within my inclusive practices classes, within assignments, which have allowed me to further explore and inquire and even question my philosophy of education and the interplay of our relational model of the comprehensive school cohort. And what I've come to learn through these communities of practice is just how important it is to implement a universal design for learning. And that is a design whereby all learners are included all of the time. I see this type of learning the way I see a Rubik's Cube, this amalgamation of these interconnected parts that are ever evolving, interwoven, and are in constant communication with one another. It represents my belief that there should be this open dialogue between staff and students and parents and the wider community and even the more complex world at large, because learning in itself is not only different for everyone, but the ways in which we learn and through whom we learn is a very complex construct. I think it's imperative to remember that as teachers, our responsibility is not to act as these superior figures who are standing authoritatively in front of a classroom of children, delivering and imparting a specific set of knowledge and instructions to be carried out precisely, but rather we need to learn how to engage our students in a way that recognizes the whole learner of every child, and we need to recognize our positionality within the realm of learning, understanding that we are one of many educators our students will learn from and be influenced from now and forever. So for one of our classes recently, I wanted to develop an activity that really spoke to this. An activity that was very hands-on, very practical, very engaging and open-ended, and allowed my students to work both independently and collaboratively and represent themselves in doing so, but also allowed them to share and learn from all of those who are responsible for their learning. So the topic I chose was communities. I asked them, what is a community? What does it mean to you? What does it look like to you? What does it feel like, smell like, sound like? Who is a part of it? I provided several materials whereby they could draw and build and even design via technology, and I was open to them talking and acting and dancing even, really demonstrating in every possible way what community meant through these multimodalities. So as I began to observe these children, some of whom can oftentimes be a challenge to engage, to maintain the focus of, even to perturb, I noticed something so wonderful take place. Through this activity, every single child had the opportunity to express themselves, to share, to interact, to truly flourish in a way that was meaningful to them. So together, we had created this inclusive community right here within our classroom. More specifically, I noticed that a few of my students who have ADHD, who require some form of movement, some continuous change, and even a good challenge, were significantly engaged. They were standing up, sitting down, building, balancing, listening and responding to others, engaging in this movement and problem solving that is truly essential for these types of learners. And then there was my student who has giftedness, who is sitting by herself designing this intricate building through a drawing. And despite it being this drawing of this singular building on a completely flat surface, the way she spoke about it in such detail and later collaborated with others in order to construct it so that it could become a part of this entire community allowed me to comprehend how extensive her knowledge was on this topic, as well as how passionate she was about this building she created and why. And finally, I even noticed that the learners with seemingly no exceptionality at all, they were talking, they were collaborating, they were taking initiative and taking part in the activity. So ultimately, it didn't matter whether you had ADHD or giftedness or a learning disability or developmental disability and so on. We created the conditions for success. So we created this community whereby everyone was able to participate in each their own way, because through this activity, we eradicated labels. We eradicated this ceiling that we place on a child's learning when we view having an exceptionality with a negative connotation. And I actually love that word exceptionality or exceptional, because I believe that we're all exceptional. We all have something incredibly unique to offer. Each one of us has these gifts and talents and abilities and passions that allow us to connect with different people in different ways, in different subject areas, and ultimately bring something new and novel and exciting and truly beautiful to the table. So I think that if we as educators, as parents, as community members can create, develop, and implement these units and lessons and activities that are engaging, multimodal, and open-ended, and that provide the conditions for learning and growing and invention, we can ensure that all learners, all of the time, are not only included, but feel welcome, feel inspired, and feel empowered.